How pleasant, good morning, good evening, and good afternoon to our many followers of ELBC 99.9 FM and LNTV Liberia Live. I am Asiami calling and broadcasting to you live at the Ministry of Information, Culture Affairs and Tourism. So today is Tuesday, the 26th of August, and today press briefing. So today Mikat's press briefing will only be addressed. Mikat's press briefing will be addressed by Honorable Gerald Matthew Piah, Ministers of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. So Honorable Piah will speak on wide range of trending national issues concerning the country. So if you are just joining, I'd like to say welcome. This is LNTV Liberia Live and ELBC 99.9 FM. So stick and stay with us as we bring you full coverage of MICAT regular press briefing.
Hello. I want to show government start right? I want to show you. If somebody told you something that's doubt.
So arriving and sitting of journalists were done 11:30 a.m. and arriving and sitting of guests. That's Honorable Piah was supposed to be 11:45, but Honorable Piah will be here shortly. So welcome statement will be done by Honorable Daniel Otesano, the Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs at MICAT. To follow, please tune into ELBC 99.9 FM, www.elbcradio.com on App J Online Television in Green Pass County, and so on. So if you're just joining, I'd like to say welcome. This is I'm broadcasting to you live at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism, and I have been joined by the Deputy Director General for New Media and Rebranding, Honorable D. Flomo is here. Armstrong Corporal here to broadcast the conference live on the radio. So
No, two ways. If you get into the velocity, get the action.
So if you're just joining, I'd like to say welcome. This is LNTV Liberia Live and ELBC 99.9 FM. I'm broadcasting to you live at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. So today MICAT press briefing will be addressed again by Honorable Gerald Matthew Piah, Ministers of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. Ministers Piah will speak on trending national issues affects the country. So if you're just joining again, I'd like to say welcome. Stay and stay with us. Don't you go away as we bring you full coverage of MICAT press briefing. So members of the fourth estates are pretty seated here. They are pretty seated as we await Honorable Piah. So if you're just joining, I would like to say welcome again to LNTV Liberia Live on ELBC 99.9 FM. And if you just join, you can just notify in the comment section by maybe. So as we await the arrival of Honorable Piah, I will just give an overview of the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. So the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism play a role in shaping Liberia's national narrative and cultural identity. So like public communication and information dissemination, MINCAT is tasked with managing the government communication through press briefing like every Tuesday and Thursday. MINCAT inform the public about what is happening within the country through the Liberian News Agency and other media institutions to ensure citizens are informed about public policy and national development, like I said earlier. MINCAT help inclusive governance initiatives, so that's the arrival of Honorable Gerald McMurphy PM, Minister of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. So once again, keep following as we bring you full coverage of MINCAT press briefing. So once again, if you're just joining, I would like to say welcome. This is LNTV Liberia Live on ELBC 99.9 FM.
Fellow media colleagues,
So keep following.
radio listeners, television viewers, our brothers and sisters in the diaspora who are following us, those in the rural area also joining us via the community radio stations. I'd like to welcome you to the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism in the refurbished Charles William Press Hall for our today's press briefing. I'd like to say happy belated National. On behalf of the Reporters Association here, we agree to extend our sympathy for the loss of the Minister of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism, sister, Minister Piah. We stand with you, we feel the pain of you, the kind of other person who happened to, with her soul and the souls of all those who departed this life. Rest in perfect peace. At this juncture, I'd like to invite the Deputy Spokesperson of the government, Honorable Daniel Sandro, who will make a brief remarks, after which the Chief Administrator and the man has the single authority to speak for the entire government on our limit Matthew Piah to mount the podium. Mr. Sandro.
So that was the voice of the acting assistant minister for information services, and he's the current director of operations and public affairs at Megat. This is Honorable Daniel Odesalo, the minister for press and public affairs.
To all of you, it's been a pleasure to be here in a historic chapel conference room here at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. We want to extend thanks and appreciation to the Folk Estate for the very, very valuable contribution we continue to make in helping the Ministry of Information to reach your various audiences. Speaking on behalf of the government is one thing, but how many persons listening, how many persons follow what you say is very important. And as I've always indicated, the senior management team is very grateful to the team of reporters that we have covering the Ministry of Information here. Thank you also, you were on the airport last Saturday to receive His Excellency President Waka and his entourage on the return from Japan. It's all part of the work that we jointly do to complement each other. So I say thanks to all of you for the sacrifices you continue in helping us to do our work. That being said, today is a very important day. When you listen to the radio stations, you read the various newspapers, some of the stories are far from the truth. Some demand immediate response from the government. And you want to know what the government thinks, what the government says, and what in the press, what comes from those in the, I don't want to say opposition, those on the other side of the political divide. You want to know what the government says. And the place where the government speaks from is no other place but the Ministry of Information. So that is why we have continuously placed importance to the consistency of the LICA record of press briefing, because this is where the Liberian government speaks. This is where positions of the government are defined. This is where, maybe in some nominal cases, this is where the government responds to certain issues, because we do not want to just base our work on responding. A lot is happening for the government. As a matter of fact, one of the reasons why we decided, when I say we, the senior management team decided to hold this press briefing on a bi-weekly basis, is because we believe that one day in the week was just not sufficient to talk about the progress that our government, the Liberian government, is making. And so we amplify the frequency 2 times a week. Even the 2 times in a week, you realize at some point we are overwhelmed by the issues, the development news, the good things that happen for the country on the international scene. So we'll continue to talk about these issues. So that we've come to another week after a very long weekend that was inspired by the holiday which was celebrated yesterday. We are back here at the Nika Regular Press Briefing and want to welcome back our distinguished minister. He traveled along with the president to Japan and had a very successful trip now. There are many of you who are eager to know what is TICA. We endeavor, we delve into it. But with the bosses here, you can't say much because I think the minister has a lot to unpack about what happened in Japan. And the more thing, the minister will speak to other issues on the national scene. As usual, I would have guests here, but we don't have guests because the issues are many. The minister will delve deeper into the issues, and then we'll provide you an opportunity at the end to ask the minister some questions, and the minister responds to the questions. So that is the protocol for today. That being said, I want to remind all of us to kindly turn our cell phones and other electronic gadgets on silence. Our distinguished minister, Honorable Jeremy Piah, to the microphone.
That was the voice of Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs, Honorable Daniel Odesano. This is Honorable Jeremy VP and Minister of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. Keep following. So we're just showing you like to say welcome. This is LNTV Liberia Live, and I'm broadcasting to you live at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. Keep following.
It's good to be back in the Chancellor Hall, a familiar place where we endeavor to provide information to the public on matters concerning the state. One of them was the Sando who was in charge of the press conferences while we were out. And also Prime Minister Tapa, who was the acting minister. As all of you are aware, the president was being prepared. And I was also there with him. It was a difficult journey to undertake, personally from my end. That is because even though my sister had fallen off on the Friday before the Saturday that we left, it didn't appear that it was something that would have cost her life. And by the evening hours, 10 o'clock or so, she was dead, but I wasn't told. So we boarded a escort flight early morning. And while the plane was trying to taxi along the runway, still had a phone on, I received a call, so the plane couldn't start to put somebody down. So we had to go. And managing between what was happening there and what needed to happen back here behind me, since there was a death situation. But it was a good journey. We followed all the debates on the ground. The question that we raised, the delegation size, and all the other attending issues, which are very normal. We normally receive them with open arms because that's how society gets better. We are not going to reach the point where people who try to be critical about what we do, where we refer to them as enemies of the state. Those are some of the excesses of the past that must be corrected. So whether we agree with what people say or not, we respect those views, we do internal reflection, but we're not get to the point of thinking that they are enemies of the state because they are raising questions. So all the big countries around the world have a realization that Africa is a very important continent. That is true. Maybe we are even the richest continent in terms of the resources that will be invested by God. And it is in the interest of the rest of the world to find ways to work with us as a continent. So if you go to China, they got what they call FOCA, which is their major meeting that brings together leaders of the African continent and the Chinese government. We've had the U.S. African Leaders Summit, which has been occurring. And then you have TICA, which is the Tokyo International Conference on African Development. TICA is a little bit one step ahead because they do so with co-conveners. So the World Bank, the United Nations, and the African Union Commission are all co-conveners along with the Japanese government. So it has a spirit of deeper multilateralism than just seeking country-to-country bilateral friendship. So it's a serious summit. At that summit, Japan announced that they would take action to address the high debt premium of borrowing countries, especially in Africa. Because the interest rates are high and they accept that. The action will include, but not limited to, capacity building to enable Japan to engage effectively with actors in the financial market, including credit rating agencies. Japan has also welcomed the establishment of the African Credit Rating Agency. They are looking forward to the full operationalization of the agency. They intend to also end hunger and eliminate food insecurity of all forms, especially the problem of malnutrition. The country reaffirmed its commitment to transforming Africa's agro-food system in line with its 2025 Kampala Declaration, the Comprehensive Africa Agriculture Development Program, and the Action Plan 2026 to 2025 aim for a sustainable and resilient food system for a healthy and prosperous Africa. Realizing that there's a decline in global overseas development assistance to Africa's health system, Japan reaffirmed support for the Africa CDC and the Africa Health Financing Program in the new era of strategy to promote private sector and impact investment of both domestic and sustainable health financing. The country remains committed to addressing major diseases, including communicable and non-communicable diseases, as well as improving reproductive, maternal, neonatal, and child health, and strengthening the Japan-Africa Health Partnership. They underscored the importance of promoting international knowledge exchange, science and technology, diplomacy, engineering, technical and vocational education, and academic collaboration in research and innovation, especially targeting support towards socially vulnerable groups. They affirm their commitment to helping Africa achieve those goals. They also reaffirmed their support for full African representation in the UN Security Council, not on a non-permanent basis, but on a permanent basis. The country said it's determined to cooperate to achieve reforms at the Security Council. And Japan and African states will continue to communicate and cooperate closely at the United Nations in the areas of peace building, among others. They emphasized the importance of promoting regional and international efforts related to maritime security, including the fight against illegal exploitation of natural marine resources, piracy and armed robbery, illegal, unreported, and unregulated fishing, and other maritime crimes. Maintaining a maritime order based on international law, in particular the United Nations Convention on Law and Sea. They reaffirmed their determination to work with the African countries to combat illegal fishing, which undermines not only maritime security but also sustainable development and the stability of local economies. They will convene TICA 10 on the African continent, preferably in Angola. Let's come down to Liberia's own engagement beyond the overall TICA summit. So when you go to such a meeting, the summit is there. It's plenary, people go there, they open it. They have some different sections, then after a couple of days they close. But what else do you do while there? So a couple of government officials went, ministers, and they generated criticism. The different sector ministers that were there, but because beyond the plenary of TICA, each of them had arranged different engagements that would impact their sector, whether it's health, education, agriculture, you name it, for the rest of it, that were there, commerce. In fact, TICA was both trade and commerce sector, zooming in on e-commerce. So each of the officials that are there has specific things to do with specific engagements, in addition to just maybe joining the president in the plenary and other stuff. So what did we do before going? The government had a sectorial working group that has a series of meetings. And then we're broken down into different thematic areas. Each of the thematic areas developed a strategic engagement documentation. Then we put all together to form a technical paper that captured everything we wanted. Infrastructure development, roads and public building, etc., energy. In the health sector, we want a pediatric hospital. If you don't know what a pediatric hospital is, a specialized hospital for children only. We wanted to have support in education that will go beyond infrastructure, but include scholarship opportunities for many of the young people who may not have a job to do now, but they want to learn. Good enough, we keep our bilateral arrangement with different countries on scholarship. A good number of students have been going to China and other places. Normally, they are a system that comes with low cost. The students who are qualified to go do not pay school fee. We achieve the same thing with Japan based on our engagement. So we use that document that was prepared to be the basis of our engagement while we're in Japan. The document was presented at two separate forums. One, directly to the government through our bilateral meeting with the Prime Minister, because there was a bilateral meeting. Two, Japan has its own development agency like the Americans who have used it. It's called JACA. JACA's footprints are already in Liberia. If some of you don't know, but I guess most of you know since you are all children. When you're driving from Freeport to Relay, the road we now refer to as the Japan Freeway is an intervention from JACA. That's their handwork. If you go to the JFK, They have a complete annex called the Maternity Center. You all know that. It was built through support from JACA. So we have your footprints here already, which has established the fact that they can do things here. Prior to going to JACA's intervention, of course, this September we're going to start the construction of the road from Johnson Street to Freeport. In that technical report we presented, we made a special request for that project, which is to add an overpass. The same thing we're about to do beginning September from the ministerial complex to SKD Boulevard. So we're seeking an amendment to that project so that we have an overpass, because there's a traffic situation along that Gibraltar Bridge. And the plan has deep programming I want to do in agriculture. Like I said, in here we want to have a maternity hospital. And then we want to improve facilities at the GFK. When you saw us visiting the biggest and most effective private sector hospital in Japan, that was the reason. Because that hospital had already been engaged with Liberia. They established the dialysis center at the GFK. By the way, dialysis is a process where people who got kidney problem, and until they can have the opportunity to have a transplant, you keep processing their kidneys so that it keeps surviving until you find a donor who can provide them a matched kidney to have a transplant. So they opened a dialysis center there at the GFK in 2022 with 10 dialysis machines. It will surprise you to know that most of the machines are not being operational because maintenance was a problem. So there, during our engagement, was not just to talk about additional dialysis machine, but to have a technical arrangement where people come here. Then you can take one man, you go there, they train you, kind of like you alone. If the trainers come here, they can train up to 50 persons. So that we can have more skilled people who will not cater to those machines. Because kidney situation in the country, people with kidney diseases are growing. So that was the essence of going to that place. In addition to the fact that we asked him for the building of the pediatric hospital. Thankfully, the Japanese are very knowledgeable that we have a national development plan, which is their REST agenda. And they committed to us that they will tailor all their intervention in Liberia consistent with their REST agenda, which is key for us. Because you can have a national development plan that is not matching to people who you want to help. So it becomes very difficult. So that commitment alone, don't forget, our development plan is very costly, 8-something billion. And we have projected that 70% of that cost should come from our global partners, with the country being able to raise 30%. Japan is the second most important donor to all of the international system, whether it's the UN. Any organization you think about, the American come first. I don't know whether that will still be the case, but the Americans are all being first, and they are being followed by Japan. So when you have a relationship with the Japanese, you're sailing on better grounds. So they will expand their investment in Liberia in the area of roads, energy, and agriculture. We have technical cooperation in the area of education, trade, and institutional reform. And then we have health sector support, including partnership for the hospital I just mentioned, Chukwuchuka. We have an urban development arrangement with the city of Yokohama. The president met with the mayor and we saw the naysayer running around saying, "Oh, president will be mayor." Mayor in the developed world It's not a mayor you know. These are people who control huge budgets. So say if the mayor of the city of Yokohama comes and say they want to partner with the city of Monrovia, they can do intervention that even the government don't have money to do. Our whole country budget is 800 million. It is still around there. Go on your different platform and just Google to know what's the budget for the city of Yokohama. Then you change your thought about, oh, why the president meeting a mayor? And this is part of the problem we have as a country. We get anything. But some of us, we're big-hearted. When we made president, you're not being a mayor. So if you sort of get, let's say, 300 million for a city that's supposed to partner with you to do something, you know what you say you want to rep because it's coming from just a city of a mayor. That man said it's not for a country that wants to make progress. So yes.
4.5 billion.
All right. I just wanted you to check it yourself so I can say something to you. That's just a city. Whose mayor support complain why we met with them? You know how many of your country budget that Andrew can come from India budget as me? So Japan has done a lot of things that we're going to track and establish, like I said from the beginning, in our engagement. The freeway, the food aid. The other day you saw some people being arrested by the asset recovery team. It was in connection to over 600 metric tons of rice that were provided us by Japan. Health equipment for the hospital, like I said. That happened before, we will do more. We recognize that they supported us during Ebola, they helped to fight Ebola. They've committed to supporting education, particularly vocational training. They will help with health and sanitation program. We have a big problem with sanitation. We all know that. So in the end, at the end of the meeting, in addition to all the different things we did, there was a declaration. I just wanted to give you a picture of what comes from the declaration and how Liberia can benefit. So they made key financing commitment at the end of TICA. And the key to that is they're going to invest in the African continent the amount of 13 billion plus. It's broken down into different segments. 5.5 billion will be for loans, so the African country can tap into those loans and do their development project. And because it's targeting African countries, the loan will be channeled through the African Development Bank. The African Development Bank has been financing a lot of programs here, so loan going through there is really good for us. The whole corridor you see coming from the southeast, the road being paid from Maryland coming towards Grand Gila and other places, the one that is being paid from Bima going towards Grand Gila as well, they are all being financed through loan from the African Development Bank. So 5.5 billion will be available for loan through the African Development Bank. $1.5 billion will be used for investment. How does that work? You will encourage companies from the country that seem to challenge it. You encourage Japanese countries to focus on investing in Africa. But to do so, beside their own money they will have a source of funding to enhance their investment. And that source of money that been made available by the Japanese government is 1.5 billion. And it will be done through JACA, the very group we met with. They will deal with transformative projects in sectors such as infrastructure, roads, healthcare. So it is from this that we intend to tap on the money we need to build a pediatric hospital for children. For the Enhanced Private Sector Assistance to Africa program, they will earmark 5.5 billion, another 5.5 billion. To Gavi. Gavi is the forerunner for all vaccination programs in the world. And they will make available 550 million to Gavi, which is a vaccine alliance. Over the next 5 years, 2026 to 2030, the 550 million will be provided to Gavi for immunization in Africa, strengthening access to vaccination, and improving health quality. They will spend 155 million via Africa TICA as bonds. They will be aimed at strengthening financial development initiatives with social and sustainable objectives. The channel of the commitment, in summary, total amount, like I mentioned, 13.205 billion. The summary of how it will be channeled, loan, will be through the African Development Bank. The Sustainable Development Fund will be through JACA. The Private Sector and Development Project will be through, just name them, sorry, the Enhanced Private Sector Assistance Program for Africa Group. And then the Private Sector Development Support will come through Gavi contribution, and the immunization and health quality money will come through the Africa TICA bonds. Development project aligned with sustainable development goals, because that's the basis for all development projects around the world. And like I said, the overall envelope from TICA 9 is 13.205 billion. What is the implication for Liberia in all the what we say? They got no importance to us if we don't apply it to Liberia. But the president emphasized Liberia's priority at TICA is to enhance access to concessional financing, where the funding will be used on agricultural transformation, infrastructure development, roads, etc., energy, digital capacity development, jobs for the young people and women, a resilient energy system. So our country stands poised to benefit across multiple sectors through both bilateral, country to country, Japan, Liberia, and multilateral, getting it from the entire package, which is co-sponsored by the World Bank, the United Nations, and the African Union. I hope that summarizes how important the TICA meeting was. We can still have additional conversation around it if there are people who have doubts, but you don't go for those meetings to dance. In the first place, to travel to a place like Japan is exhausting. It's really exhausting. When we came back, I couldn't leave my house. Maybe added to the fact that I'm bereaved. But I was physically exhausted. So you're sitting in an aeroplane, hanging in the sky for hours. 13 hours, 12 hours. An engine carrying. So you can follow. Yes. I mean, you are not drive your own car, you can't get rid of. So when you there, you lack on pleasure. And of late, I don't know what's happening. The sky is hostile. So if you're not brave, you can travel. Because you're not traveling in comfort. I get that some of you put your woman for the challenge. Let me see your hand. Nobody here? Oh, okay. Maybe they could share their experience with you. And they will tell you what they can be driving like a street paper going in the sky. Or if it's carried them and say every night they got to be holding them to see of the plane level. So when people make those journeys, they're not doing it for any other stuff. You see all the people who put inside the French when you're talking about Padan, have you seen the Padan that they gave people to go on a trip? That's for money making. To go there because you have a piece of job to do. Again, the society is democratic. We will respect those criticisms. And we'll always look in them and see whether there are things we can learn from the criticism, there are things we can pick up, and whether there are corrective measures we can take as a result of the concern, because we represent you. We are fortunate to be the one governing a country that belongs to all of us. So your voices matter, and we'll not get angry because you criticize us. We'll not call you enemies of the state. As we approach a period not far from jumping into the dry season, our different sectors are giving us assurances of enhanced work on all corridors. Just before coming for this press conference, I had a conversation with the Minister of Public Works, for example. They are still on course with having the groundbreaking for the overpass bridge, to break ground from the road that leads from Clay straight to Port Waterside, 4-lane. We'll continue to advance on the Rubber Spooks Road. We'll see more acceleration of work on the Rubber Fee Highway because we want to see that work concluded. It links our city to all visitors coming in. When you come, you go way to RIA. Then from there you got to drive to town. That corridor is important. Much work was taking place until the rain got heavy. To take advantage of the slowness of the rain to fast track the work there. In the end, it will be a road that we'll all be proud of. We have funding for the Lofa Road. We have funding for Bassett to Sester. We have funding for the Southeastern corridor that is still ongoing. And because we have funding for multiple corridors, in the words of the Foreign Minister of that world, he said there will be an autopause kind of infrastructure program as we approach the dry season. We would have chosen, or I would have chosen not to make a comment at all about what took place with the evasion, but I will have to say something because there are so much falsehoods that have been sprayed up. How many of you know about the Lima United Community? I'm asking you a question. Our community is in the Fendel area. How many homes have been monitored? I guess when you go when there, you call it. Cali Junction community. How many homes have been monitored? other day in the battery factory area on the Kangar-Lawrence road. So we being children crying, they took their mattress and they put it on the road. Because their homes were broken down. All the instances I gave you were a result of people contending on the properties on which their homes were. And when people contend, they got only one way to resolve the contention. The court. I live on a piece of place right now in my house. Somebody will come and say, this place you build your house is for me. The only way that person and I will resolve that problem is to go to court. If the court says, they've established that the place is for me, my house remains. If the court says the place is not for me, two things will happen. I will have a conversation with the person who has been established to be the owner, so that I can pay you the difference because I have my house there to remain there. Or the court will order an eviction. If the court does so, I have to just take whatever I have in the house and move. If I don't, and the operational line division, the main thing that I got in the house will be thrown out. It will not be the government that is doing anything to me. In the Nima community store, it was not the government doing anything to anybody. The Cali Junction was not the government doing anything to anybody. Battery factory was not the government doing anything to anybody. People had dispute. They went to court. The court took action. Eviction was ordered. And when eviction is ordered, the one who takes the documentation to the place is the sheriff from the court. But the civil procedure law, I think chapter 44.7 or so, says when you have those situations, then the state will provide protection for the process. So when they want to do eviction, you see police. But it is not the police that are going to do anything there. Why you see them, they just stand by. The owner of the property will find the instrument for the demolition or for the eviction. So in the case of what happened at our friend's headquarters, Mr. Stubberfield made his arrangement with the bulldozer. The bulldozer takes instruction from the property owner. Everything you see them moving to, that they breaking down, that what the property owner say, I don't want to see on my land. If that property owner have said, I love the fact that things are not on my land, I will inherit them, I don't want it to be broken down. Nothing is going to be broken down there. So for us to see comments coming from the leadership of that group at the highest level, blaming President Waka, blaming the government, how? There's some small reasoning prevail beyond politics. How is the government responsible for a matter that has been in the code of law for I don't know how long? In fact, at some point in this process, the man who served in the government that produced, in the government that party produced, in Councillor Frank Musa Dean, was not Justice Minister then. He was the lawyer for the victorious party. He initiated everything that came to an end recently. But he was Justice Minister in that regime. Okay. So whatever he started, consistent with the law, he got nothing to do with it, right? That worker, that the current government. What is the reasoning? Even ordinary people in the different places, they know what can lead to evasion. Most political parties make these mistakes, including even the Unity Party. They had power before. They didn't buy or build headquarters. They went to renting from the McLeans. Close up to the election, the McLean people say, you owe all money or you do, they all want to. Some kind of dispute they had, they say, you gotta leave. They went to court. The party, knowing they didn't have standing and they could eventually be evicted, they easily find their Satoka, go sit down on Broad Street. In this case, you all know it's been a long-running battle. 1 minute, you know, you say, oh, they both gone back. But yes, there is a strange thing about it. The court was not adjudicating a matter with the CDC and the property owner. The court was handling a matter between different contending family members who were making claim to the property. So let me tell you what I would have done. Assuming the place that lady read out if I were renting that place. And then 4 or 3 groups in that family that are renting from making plan with that place, they're going to go up and down, talking about invasion. I will say down there, that rent and paying on my property. While they're making that noise, I will say, I'm going to be caught in this family feud, so I'm leaving. I will just find another place somewhere that I will rent there. Because they play that for me. And that's the crux of the matter here. Everybody, including our friends from the city who agree that they don't own the property. So if they don't own it, and different actors were fighting over it, if I were them, I would have left long since so I didn't be caught in the fighting. But they have the choice to approach it the way they wanted to approach it. And it would not have been an issue for us to talk about if they're not thinking around to say that the president did it, that the current government did it. So all the explanation I'm giving is to say the government, obviously that we all know, which is the truth, beyond the politics, had no part to play in a personal family dispute over property. Because it doesn't profit the government anything. And you go far saying, we are builders. And the Unity Party people are destroyers. When you do that one, and you expect to clap for you. Because we can begin to put the two groups on the pedestal. From the period they both had to serve. And see who was building and who was destroying. You are builders. According to you, and a lot of people are destroyers. But in the whole 6 years, you're only building things for yourself. And you build nothing for the institution. When you arrive at the place you arrive now, all that the Unity Party people did it because they are destroyers while we are builders. Why all these comments are even part of the conversation? I don't get it. Find the missing links. People build condominiums. People build mausoleums. People build different things. You could have built a party here, could have. If you didn't do it, and people went to court on their property and they won the case and they say move on there, and you decide that you will not move until they can't bring both those up, own it and start holding the government responsible. Government got nothing to do with what took place there. And if your insinuation about government doing it is the based on the presence of the police, that's what the law requires. When the treasurer of your party, Mr. Yuboti, won the case, and they were demolishing the land, the horses on that land, police were there. So at that time, the police were welcome. So if it is all the way around, the presence of police now is interpreted as being the government is the one that making my place down. No. Absolutely no. So that my people were talking about, saying the UB left that place. It's still there. I don't think anybody has entered it. So if both those are going to break it down, that is our business. So let's all of us get a little bit serious. Let's own up to our excesses. It can be confusing. At 1 minute you say, Party headquarters is not just a physical building. It is in the heart. People carry it in their heart. But the mansions you live in, people don't carry them in their hearts. You build them physically. You could have built the headquarters also physically. Since that it didn't happen, they ended up with demolition, cleaned it. During that process, as you all may have seen, 2 officers of the Liberia National Police were captured on camera, committing acts inconsistent with the professional standards of the RMP. Stealing 101, RB number 7010. He was employed January 1, 2025 from class 46. Edwin Caesar, RD number 6455. Also employed January 1, 2025 from class 46. They were all recruited in 2023. You know, you have to be recruited, you go for a training before you can agree. So they're not really want to recruit them. They were all recruited in 2023. So we thought to say this so you know that whatever you saw on live camera was not unattended to. The police have taken seize of that matter. And beyond what we said, we will refrain from releasing further details so as to protect the integrity of the investigation because they are being investigated. Updates will be provided as the process goes on. In accordance with the internal procedures and due process in the RMP. You see what we've been into here? We've been here and put in trouble. We are shooting our asking men for hair so they got So we stop here. Ordinarily, I would not have addressed the press conference today, but I thought I needed to talk about it since Daniel was not in Japan. I was there, and I should have been able to communicate to you what happened there. These are rough times. We put that matter to rest this week. I'll be with my sister this weekend on Saturday. On Thursday, we'll have Piah Hour and St. Joseph from 6 to 7. On Friday, we remove the remains at 2 p.m. and go to the camp. So that's all we have. Thank you for your attention.
So that was the voice of Honorable Jeremy Piah, Minister of Information, Culture Affairs and Tourism. So this is questions and answers by journalists.
Thanks so kindly. I need a situation where I went for Punch, Radio Liberia. The government of Liberia earlier announced on the 8th August of free of entry bodies to come to the country on the 8th August. And if we were to divide the month, the day of August will be around the 16th. And today is the 26th up to now, Liberians are concerned on the status of the buses. And also the agriculture minister announced the consignment of over 300 agricultural equipment this August. What's the status of those different agricultural equipment? Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm standing on saying I put for Terrier on the television and website.
What did I put that?
I said Terrier online television and website. Recently, the LDS delegate director for Britain.
Hold on, let me start your small for your country. All the things I get to you don't get question about it. Don't you see the missing of the director for no, come back to what we told you. Well, also, still the battle follow you and ask say you did something, please don't be about it. And I'm the guy who use for that.
Here is my name. I'm freelance. Minister Piah talks so much about information, minister brief application. I took my microphone upstairs with my photographer to find out if I could scoop ministry work. A man comes up and says, according to Minister Piah, nobody do any filming here until the work is over. Somebody just pop up. Yes, right in the ministry upstairs on your side there. So we didn't bother. He said, yo, don't film. So I was very diligent. I said, okay, we're not film. Next thing, we see a lot of work being done here, security-wise, for this building. I see a lot of unscrupulous behavior here. I hope you will check it out. Thank you.
So, my name is Joseph Salif, and I report for ABC Radio and TV. I welcome Mr. Minister, and let me say sorry for the loss. It is a hard thing, to be addressing the press while you bereaved. But, Mr. Minister, many times people criticize the president trip because when the president travels and he comes back, previous trips we have been getting real updates. When the president travels to China, we hear about a refinery being built. We don't know the current updates. The hands-on agreement that was signed between Ivangno Group of Company up to now, we don't even know the current status. I don't know if you can update us on that one. When it comes to the demolition of the CDC headquarters, right? In a much, the president spoke and the president said the law is the law. But we saw the deputy director, like you said, we should carry our microphone doing, but he posted on a Facebook page that mission accomplished. And, many people criticized him and thought that he was like the Liberian Tom Cruise, mission impossible. So, with these statements coming in from the president saying the law is the law, and a deputy director at the state broadcaster that should be an independent body is posting on his official Facebook page and saying mission impossible. Don't you think it send a message to the public? He said mission accomplished, and no mission accomplished, and somebody will say mission impossible, like the same way. So, the question is, with these posts from public officials, don't you think it undermines the president's stance on what we call the law is the law? Because that's what the president said. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning, or better say good afternoon, Mr. Minister, and to your members of the senior management. And my apology to you for the loss of your precious auntie. Sorry, Minister, but honestly, I'm going through a lot. Yeah. So my sympathy, and happy to see you. Welcome back in country. So my concern is, I personally did research on the president's recent trip there in Japan, and I was made to believe there are several, bilateral discussions that went on. But I'm just curious to know, when do Liberia stand to, benefit in real essence all of these arrangements the president had, including even the visit with the mayor of the city of Tokihama. And follow up to that question is, before the president's departure to Japan, the executive mansion official Facebook page reported that the president was also to have attended the Expo 2025 in Osaka, Japan. And of course, the Expo is ongoing and the president is back in the country, of which Liberians are gearing to know as to what could be the sudden cancellation in the president's trip, that you have to come back to the country. And the last concern is, no, that was a different version of that. So, but in fact, the press secretary said no, the president was never meant to have attended the trip in Osaka. But the post on the executive mansion explained it in depth that the president. So this is also government communication minister. So I think it's important that since I cover here, I may have the time to ask my minister to better speak to the Liberian people concerned. And the last concern is.
I didn't get the first concern. I only got the second one.
No, I think I have one concern. In terms of the time, I personally did a research. Too many things the president discussed. When exactly, in time essence, do the country, stand to benefit from these several engagements with the president had in Japan? And the second issue is why is the sudden abrupt in the cancellation of the president trip that he was meant to attend the Expo 2025? While the Expo is ongoing, the president is back in the country. What is the reason? And just a follow-up to that is, Mr. Minister, aside from the president's engagements with these people, are also the similar research. Other countries' president that attended that program, they don't just only have several bilateral dialogue, but they were also confirmed, signing of MOUs. Is our government in any way signed a particular MOU while in Japan? And let me wrap up by saying, this government, I must admit, for your administration, for over the last 20 years, this is a state-of-the-art ministry in terms of the refurbishment of this ministry. And if I cannot acknowledge your posture in terms of modernization, as an independent press, I will not be doing justice to the profession, because we are truth tellers. So you are one of the ministers that not just developing lives or building men, but you are also transforming the infrastructure architecture of the Ministry of Information. Thank you, and I encourage that you do more. Thank you.
Good afternoon, Mr. Minister. My name is Jackson Siafa, and I report for SEM TV. Bravo to you for the good work done in the ministry, and I say welcome back to the country. My sympathy I want to extend to you and the entire family for the loss of your loved ones. My question is about the most talk about moving equipment. Our people are very anxious, and as of July, we heard that before August ends, the machines were going to be in the country. Can you please throw a light to that? Thanks for the good job.
Thank you. Questions and concerns from different
So that's most questions from journalists by Fira Media Institution. This is answers by Honorable Jeremy Matthew Piah, Minister of Information, Culture Affairs and Tourism.
That's one. MOUs are not non-celebrated standards make MOU. So if you say there are countries that are going fast with MOU, good luck to them. The MOU is just an expression of intent, not something you want to do. And they don't represent agreements. And that's my second question.
I thought that when will the benefit be realized?
So you see, if you came to me in my office, and said, Minister Piah need help for first class there. He said, tell me the time you give it. You want beg and you want food, I'm going to give it to you. So when you make your plea for people to help you, when you reach understanding, they will do it. So when I tell you I'll do it tomorrow, I'll do it the after tomorrow. So if there's any assurance we can give you as a government, is the fact that in those closed doors, behind those walls, we've got real commitment that something will be done. And we have a history for that. When we had engagement in the past, for example, with China and other places, they said to us, we'll build a hospital. They didn't have to tell us when, but they built a hospital. Go to Nimba, Jackson Fiado Hospital. They said to us, we'll help you to rebuild your university. They built a new Fender Hospital. Fender campus. They said to us they would rebuild our vocational institute, the MVTC. They did. They told us they would give us a ministerial complex. We're using it now. They told us they would give us a new broadcast complex at LVS. We're dedicating our place in November. Almost finished. They told us they would give us a brand new reference laboratory at one of our hospitals. We chose 14 Military Hospital. That construction is almost nearing the end. So at times they told us they would reformulate to some kind of those companies. They did. I'm giving you examples to say they didn't have a time to say we'll do it this day. Every commitment they made to us were executed. And since your question is about Japan, let's go to Japan. President Sally was in power to the Sintika. There we made a case that our people really that would get 2 lanes that was almost non-existent. We made a case there. They told us that we had to change that road from the 2 lanes that was non-existent to 4 lanes. It's there, you see that. We needed to add a maternity center to the JFK. We asked them, they said they were going to do it a day. We asked them again that this road that leads from Johnson Street to Freeport is not okay. We want to rebuild it, we don't have the money. They promised that they were going to do it. By September, our construction starts. So if we look at this history, then we should not have any doubt that whatever they say they will do, they will do. That's the way I can answer that. I mean, if I always come in here, I think there's no big giving small thing. And you can give it away. I can't give you small thing, give it away. The day I come, you say, okay, I'll give you something. Should I doubt it when I know you're always doing it? The people can say that when the man can say, I will take it to the bank. I will get it for you. Because you have a history of delivering whatever I ask you. Our friends internationally, they have facilitated the fact that they can always give us positive response when we ask them. And you see, what more do you want if you came to the country and you talk to the man at the highest level? The Prime Minister runs government in Japan. So besides presiding over a general TICA summit, he opted to give us a bilateral. In this case, you may have seen God's face. The President was just in America the other day, face to face, Donald Trump. So when you have these leverages of meeting the people in charge at the highest level, and they get some commitment, you can be sure that they will do it. MTA buses. I have spoken to the supplier of those buses myself. They are procured. If they are not arriving in August, you're concerned by the time. If they don't arrive in August, they will still arrive. Because they are procured. You see, when you're already procured something, it's impossible for you to not happen. So they will come. Yellow machines, I have said it over and over, and I will continue to reiterate. You will have the yellow machine. There was a whole mission to China, led by our able vice president. The fruit of that mission will be the delivery of the yellow machines. No big deal if you expect 8 August and you're not here August. I'm not sure somebody said August because the last time I spoke here was, I said I couldn't give you any detail because the VP came, he needed to make a formal report to the bossman. And when it crossed all those levels, then we have authorization to make public what the report contains, and we do. So that's what I said. I'm not sure I or Danny or anybody said on the platform that you will have a yellow machine in August. Whatever it is, let me reassure you that yellow machines will come. What will be the benefit from TICA? Is it different? Was it in the question?
Yeah.
Somebody asked what will be the benefit?
Yeah, he asked.
So I just read to you a summary of the declaration. So the 13 billion that they are targeting for Africa, you know, TICA please pay every 3 to 4 years. So when TICA ends, let's say between this time and the TICA is what we spend. So the 13 billion they talk about, that money is supposed to spend between now and the next TICA. And when I read the statement, I said, what does it mean for that period?
Implication.
And I said, in healthcare, in infrastructure, in education, we will benefit from those 13 billion. If we make more bridges, more roads, we'll make the case for that. But in addition to that, one of the things I said we paid much attention to, when we met JACA, and we made our proposal that covered other sector, the costing is between 75 to 100 million. That is different from that 1 billion stuff. That will be direct bilateral engagement. Once that thing we present to them is approved, the things we say we want to do there, they will roll them off far ahead of that. Each country may benefit from the total commitment of 13 billion. It's a different arrangement altogether. Social media post. Oh, okay. So did anybody ask my default said mission accomplished? Did anybody asking or they just drew conclusion as usual? When I came to the Ministry of Information as a minister, before I could even talk to my team, I sat up by myself. And I asked myself some very hard questions. I said, I've been in the ministry before. I was Deputy Minister for Public Affairs. Then I was acting minister. And the first thing I said to myself, this is a ministry that government after government gets on for. Why do I want to be here? Then my other innovative man told me, say, oh, so you can be somewhere and do something only when the government does, so why the government doesn't do it? And then I remember being told at Harvard that the primary reason why anybody should get education is to get things done. So I go, oh, yeah, you learn the book. But then the teacher that you read, they only go here and mean nothing, you can't get anything done with it. When you go to school, you should be developed as a change agent. And the focus should be on getting things done. So I had to say to myself, I don't see my course, I said, okay. This building has been like this since the war ended. What is the government giving money? Government not giving money. it should be an objective. Now you see a work commission, I can't one day ask them to put out, say, mission accomplished. And somebody will interpret and say, oh, the government coming to end and the mission accomplished. So this man went on a corporate mission. You are corporate, you go there to work about. You cover the place, the activity ended. Who knows why a mission accomplished means the thing I to cover, finish covering? But somebody will interpret that to say, it means this government sort of really play that government and bring it down to mission accomplished. So let's start taking little things too serious. Because most importantly, the government of Liberia has a single spokesperson, a system and a deputy spokesperson. If you want to attribute something to the government, it must have either come from me or from Daniel Son. Flow, yes, working with government, does not speak for government, will not speak for government, is never authorized to speak for government, and therefore the things he said cannot be attributed to the government. To all of those who were running around with a quote who said, Deflo said this, how many government did this? You know better, and you know it's not true. You know this man does not speak for government. But since everything is about politics, and we know the fact this thing was in court, court took their decision. The court brought the police to assist with the who were doing the evasion. But then you take this man, we should have come and say, they're not confronted either. Let's be fair to ourselves and our country. I'm a straightforward person. You say it right here. That's why I'm not in the country. I saw you, I told you the tax. I said, that which you did, I consider unacceptable. He said, I'm sorry, Gilly, we're not asking you again. It's a humble man. Now, are you making all the noise on Facebook? You wrote that you say, I apologize. The men were fed at the country when they were here. You also heard at the beginning statement they apologize. You ever saw that before? Even if it's established that what they did was wrong, do less money, you know they can do. So the man is there, the man walking to you, say, oh, I'll tell my story. I just say the man died, the man coming, you say he's there by the story. That's story. So let's start taking Deflo mission and complete things so serious and try to gain power that he doesn't have. He doesn't speak for government. The only time you had that for me when they move from the bring here, all the bush out of the put here. Other than that, you say what? They did that for new media. The man only rebranding and doing new media. You can't speak for government. So you don't beat on the man for that. You don't beat on the government for that. Oh, that government doing their Deflo say. So for the record, I haven't told anybody not to do recording.
It's open now.
Because if I did, all the plenty team from the ministry, you know where they go that here news were posted, they would not have posted it. I haven't stopped anybody. But I think that it will be good when you promote a finished product. And you're not far from having a finished product. The folks have been doing a good job, they've been speaking all yes. The time we give them, as part of the sign of contract with them, where the jobs will be done in 3 months. We know they've been only a little bit over that period, but it will still be concluded. And then you can sell the product as a completed product. I mean, nothing wrong with you. Say, oh, yeah, the page should be there. They see the work. I've always told my people, I hope they have an account of what we make here. Because they became established before and after, people don't appreciate why it was. So no suppose say, but I played when they didn't do it so much. They do nothing with it. Bathrooms here were done size. I hope they have the pictures. Entire roof started leaking. I hope they have the pictures. Multiple rotting doors all over the place. I hope they have this picture. A falling gate. Having those pictures will help tell the story properly about the before and the after. We don't take any personal glory in it. But we thought the building to be reformed because it is owned by the government. One of the few ministries that blessed to have its own building not rented. So the thing for you, maintain it. That's the least you can do. We look forward to our employees having more comfortable work environment because all 2 sections have been taken away. You all know the National Tourism Authority has been established. We're trying to operationalize it now. The president has named members of the board. We're about to do the vetting of the leadership team. That will include the Director General and 4 Deputy Director Generals. Once we finish with all of that and they start to operate, they will have to vacate our building because the employees in culture and tourism will at that point be employees of the National Tourism Authority. So as they leave, the space will be there and we can create a more better working environment for those who will remain with us as a ministry. To solve a lot of problems, the bus coming, for the buses. Instead of plenty people filling with our bus, one can even go with their group. The bus will be able to serve the few people that will be here. So it is. Thank you for being here.
So that's it for today's press briefing here at the Ministry of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. So today we got press briefing was addressed by Piah, Minister of Information, Cultural Affairs and Tourism. Minister Piah spoke on trends and national issues affecting government. He spoke on the recent trip to Japan. So folks, for those that have been following, I'd like to say thanks for following. Do join on Thursday for another edition of MIGAT Press Briefing. Until then, bye from my end.